Baby, let's go.
Alabama anthem. Don't throw your hands up. Put up your hand. I ain't talking about Atlanta. I'm talking about the ham. I'm talking about the bill. ALABA, this what I live. Alabama while I was born. Alabama where I'm from. Alabama anthem. Don't throw your hands up. Put up your hand. I ain't talking about Atlanta. I'm talking about the ham. I'm talking about the bill. ALABA, this what I live. Alabama while I was born. Alabama.
Up on Rocky Top, Tennessee. What's going on, everybody? Christian Ballard Sports Media, coming at you with another edition of Tidal Wave Talk. And I apologize for missing last week. Yes, that was the first one I missed. I was afraid of that happening. But Texas A&M gave us a good game. Alabama pulled it off 24-20. They have the third Saturday rivalry. Get the victory cigars ready against the Tennessee Volunteers. And man, am I excited for this one. This is one of my favorite rivalries. And I don't just say that as an Alabama fan. I'm talking, it's a traditional game. This series dates back so long, all the way back to 1901 when Tennessee won the first meeting. You look at this too. Let's do this. Let's pull this up real quick. And I know Wikipedia isn't a source that is always credible, but for the most part, it's pretty accurate with stuff like this. You look at the third Saturday rivalry via Wikipedia. They have met 104 times, Alabama and Tennessee. They first met in 1901, and it ended in a 6-6 tie. They met last year. 52-24 was the score, and Alabama, of course, winning, right? This is Tennessee's best chance, right? You look at this too. Alabama, Nick Saban is 15-0. Nick Saban is 15-0 against Tennessee. He's also the same record against Arkansas, or he's 16-0 now. But Alabama's looking for their 16th straight win over Tennessee this year. Right, this Saturday. This game is the game of the week on CBS, a 3:30 kickoff game, Eastern time, of course, 2:30 Central, and it's in Knoxville. This is the first time, I doubt ever, but someone remind me, the last time both of these teams were number one in the top 10. And number 2, undefeated. We got a pretty good game. Someone's going to leave this game undefeated. Someone's going to end up losing and taking their first loss of the season. This is not to shape the college football playoff race, though. How crazy would this be? Because Tennessee also has to play Georgia. I think they could end up 10-2. And I think they lose to Alabama and Georgia, right? And that's their only 2 losses. I do think Alabama's going to win this game. We'll get to that later on. But what if they win the East? What if they don't win the East, but they still only have 1 loss and they end up winning either this game or they win against Georgia? Is Tennessee a playoff contending team? Right now, I think they're good. I think they're great. I think they are a playoff spotlight, contender, all of that. I do, right? Let's take a look at what ESPN has for the game, right? And by the way, College Game Day with Pat McAfee, with Kirk Herbstreit, with David Pollock. I mean, everybody's going to be there. I'm excited, and I've never been more excited for a third Saturday game in my entire life. I'm 20 years old. You guys know I've been an Alabama fan my whole life. You look at this game, right? Let me zoom into just a bit. Okay. So the FPI matchup predictor, Football Power Index, gives Alabama a 69.8% chance to win the game, leaving the Vols with a 30.2% chance to win the game. The spread is Alabama by 7.5, by a touchdown practically, right? And you look at some team stats here real quick and what they've done. It's pretty similar, but more so in favor of Alabama in some categories. Alabama has scored 44 points a game. They've given up about 12.5 on average. They have 504 even total yards. Tennessee is scoring just barely more points a game and far more yardage on the season, right? 547 yards. Incredible for Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee's offense, believe it or not, and I don't want to make too much comparison with this, but is it not making you think back to the Cinderella, once in a generation type of LSU team from 2019? It's kind of making me think of that. And I don't want to compare Hendon Hooker to Joe Burrow. I don't want to compare Jalen Wright to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't want to compare those players. I don't want to do that. But out of nowhere, Tennessee has become one of the premier programs, at least for this season, one of the premier teams in college football. Their offense is incredible. Defense is solid too. And we're going to talk about some of those stats. Aaron Beasley leads the team in tackles for Tennessee at 35. Trayvon Flowers leads the team in picks at 2. That's not bad. That's pretty good so far. Watch some guys out there. Watch Trayvon Flowers. Watch Kamal Hayden. Watch Aaron Beasley. Watch Byron Young. Watch Jeremy Banks. Jalen McCullough. However you say his last name. I'm not sure. There's some key guys on Tennessee's defense that are really solid and good playmakers that can defend the pass and stop the run. There are really good players on Tennessee's defense. There's also some players for Alabama too, right? And we'll talk about them. You look at their stats. Jahmyr Gibbs is our lead rusher at 532 yards. You also have Trayshawn Holden, who is still our lead receiver in reception yards at 223. He averages 12.4 yards a catch. He's got the most touchdowns of anybody on the year at 4 for the Crimson Tide. You also got Ja'Cory Brooks. You got Kobe Prentice. You got Jermaine Burton. You got Cameron Latu. Jahmyr Gibbs has been a go-to threat. I was on Touchdown Alabama magazine this week, and I called into Mr. Stephen Smith in my own words, which you need to go subscribe and check them out. They provide amazing Crimson Tide college football content. And I was asking him, what was I asking him? I was asking him something about, like, is using Gibbs as a receiving threat going to be a key to beating Tennessee? Because he's pretty good at catching the football too. He's got some yardage. He's got the stats for rushing. But he's got 22 receptions in the passing game, Jahmyr Gibbs does. And he has 220 yards total receiving. He averages about 10 yards a reception. his longest play receiving is of 37, and he's got 3 receiving touchdowns. It's amazing. It's incredible. He does good. So is using him, is that going to be a threat to Tennessee? It's a great possibility. Again, I mentioned the stats and everything like that. There's a lot to look at in this game. And I'll just say this. I mentioned the spread too is 7.5 in favor of the Crimson Tide, of course. I don't think Alabama covers 7.5. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than that. I think it's going to be less than a touchdown game, but it's going to come down to the wire. And we'll get to that later. Alabama's lead tackler is Tennessee transfer Henry To'oTo'o, who has 39 tackles on the year. He's got a sack for 9 yards. Will Anderson, of course, is a beast. He's the sack leader. I mentioned To'oTo'o leads in tackles, but Will Anderson, Dallas Turner, that's a duo right there. That's a pass rush duo, a two-headed monster that is going to be key. Can those guys get to Hendon Hooker this Saturday? Can they be a force? Can they get past the strong offensive line play of the Tennessee Volunteers? We're going to find out. You look at Will Anderson has 29 tackles on the year. He's got 5 sacks for 34 lost yards in sacks. Chris Braswell has 1.5 sacks for 10 yards. Tim Smith has half a sack. Malachi Moore has half a sack. There's a lot of guys that you can look at. You can say, these guys are scary good, and this Tennessee offense needs to be aware of who these guys are on the football field. So where does this game go? Where does it stack up? What is the key go-to matchup that you want to watch? I think it's obvious. As good as Alabama's offense is, as good as it is, and by the way, Bryce should be yet again a game-time decision. Hopefully, he'll be clear. Hopefully, he'll be good. Apparently, he's making great progress. We still don't know for Saturday what the situation will be, at least as I'm recording this on a Tuesday afternoon. But it is clear to me, getting back on track here, this is an offensive game. It's all about Hendon Hooker at Tennessee. It's all about Bryce Young, Jahmyr Gibbs, Trayshawn Holden, Corey Brooks. It's all about those guys at Alabama, even though their defense is solid and strong. Speaking of, you talk about this series for a second. Get back to the rivalry itself. Alabama's on a 15-game winning streak. They have met 104 times, or this will be the 104th meeting, right? Alabama leads the series 58-38, and you guessed it, 8. It's not even close. Alabama owns this rivalry. They own Tennessee. But this is truly, look, streaks are meant to be broken. Streaks are always meant to be broken at some point. Tennessee's going to get back to winning this rivalry. The only thing I'll say, before we get into predictions and everything, the only thing I'll say is that this is truly, and I'll have to look at it later on. I don't have it in front of me, and I didn't think about it. I don't know who Tennessee will possibly lose to the draft or just in general lose from their football team after this season. Is Hendon Hooker, I think he'll go pro. But, this is it for Tennessee. Not saying that after this year, your chance of beating Alabama is gone, but this is the best you're ever going to do. When's the last time you looked at this rivalry and saw that? And by that, I was kind of pointing at this spread right here. When's the last time you saw this in the top 10, let alone almost the top 5 matchup? It's 3-on-6. When's the last time you saw that in the third Saturday rivalry? When's the last time both teams were undefeated? When's the last time it was only a touchdown game? Now the question is, when's the next time this is going to happen for us? When's the next time Tennessee is going to be this good, this talented? If I'm a Tennessee fan, I believe in Josh Heupel, that he can recruit, that he can put together a strong offense, can put together an elite defense, that he can put it all together. If I'm a Tennessee fan, I would believe in this guy. He's doing it now. Don't give up. This is huge. This is great. But don't forget who you're facing. Don't get caught up if you're Tennessee. Don't get caught up in being this good to where you forget who's on the other sideline this Saturday. I hope it's not a blowout. In fact, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I'll get to the prediction in a second. I hope it's not a blowout. I hope this game is historic, meaningful, down to the wire. I remember hearing Paul Feinbaum say last year or the year before, whenever it was, and he's a Tennessee grad. He's an alum. His alma mater. And he said, this just isn't a rivalry anymore. It's just not competitive anymore. It's not what it used to be in the 90s back with, Peyton Manning. It's not what it used to be. Back in, they had some big games in the 60s, when you look back at it, back games, with like Steve Davis kicking a 17-yard game-winning field goal, but like it's not what it used to be in the 60s and 70s and the early 80s. Feinbaum said this is no longer a rivalry. This is the chance for Tennessee, and I'm just quoting Feinbaum. I personally believe it's still a true rivalry. It's a traditional game. It's still very competitive. It's just been in Alabama's favor. Tennessee needs to go show the college football world, not necessarily that they're back, not necessarily that they're better than Alabama, that they need to show the world. This is what I want. I want the college football world on Saturday watching this game to look at this game and remember how important this game is on the college football schedule. That's what I want. And I think it starts with how Tennessee plays against Alabama. They don't have to win to prove that. They just got to play good. They just got to go out there and dominate and execute and put together the proper game plan. And they just got to go out there and be themselves and be what they've been. They beat in back-to-back weeks, or not necessarily because I know they just had a bye week, but back-to-back games, they beat number 20 and number 25. They've also beaten number 17. Now the true test as they sit there at number 6 is, can they beat number 3? We're going to find out this Saturday just how good of a team they really are. All right, time to get into predictions, people. This is where I break it down a little bit more. This is where we go at it. This is where we talk about it, and I give my score prediction and final thoughts on this game. This is going to be a battle of offenses. I know I've already said that. I've already mentioned it. This is going to be that kind of battle. It's going to be a quarterback game. And Bryce Young is still at the point of game time decision for the Crimson Tide on Saturday. I personally, look, he's not going to sit out forever. He'll be back. If he's not back this week, he'll be back next week, right? So the question remains, does Alabama desperately need Bryce Young not to beat Tennessee's defense? Because I think even with Jalen Milroe, Alabama can end up putting some good points up. But let's say their defense falters a bit. This is truly going to be the test for the defense. The offense was tested against Texas, and did they escape somehow? But I think the defense is going to be tested against a top 5, top 10 offense. But when that offense is out there, you know they're going to score. Alabama's got to be able to score right back. Do they need Bryce Young in order to do that? Do they need that leadership from Bryce? Do they need that competitive character that Bryce Young has? Jalen Milroe, I thought, looked good this past weekend. I really do. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's good enough to go out there and lead this team. But if you truly want your best opportunity, you got to have the best player available. That's Bryce Young. That's Bryce Young for Alabama. He's got to go out there. He's got to make the plays. And he's got to be the guy to help Alabama go to victory. So, again, I mentioned we get to the prediction here. 69.8, rounded. It's basically a 70% chance that Alabama wins and a 30% chance Tennessee wins. The spread is 7.5. The over-under is 65. I don't want to mess with trying to take the over or trying to take the under. I really, really don't know. Although, if I give you my score prediction, I take the over, but barely. That being said, again, the spread is 7.5 Alabama. I go ahead and I give you my score prediction. I'm going to say Alabama wins it 35-31 over Tennessee. Now, if there's a team that can knock off Alabama, not from the top spot. I mean, let's be real. We're sitting at number 3. You know? Georgia's still at the top. But if there's a team right now, before they get to Atlanta, if there's a regular season team that can knock Alabama off, Texas A&M almost did it. But what's next? I think this offense in Tennessee. Can those receivers get past the secondary? Can Hendon Hooker's offensive line handle the DJ Dale's, Justin Boygbees, Will Anderson's, Dallas Turner's? Can it handle those guys that Alabama's going to throw their way on Saturday? We'll see. I do too much talking. I'm going to leave you with this. This will be the third Saturday rivalry in October. This is Tennessee's best shot to beat Alabama. But I'm confident Alabama can get the job done. I think they have that factor. I think that they have the talent. I think the offenses are even. But I come down and I look at defenses and I say, if I got to take the better defense, who you trusting more to stop an offense? Whether these guys seem stoppable or not, who do you trust more? Tennessee's defense or Alabama's defense? Because Tennessee's giving up 17 points a game, Alabama 12.5. Yards allowed, The secondary is so suspect for Tennessee. It's not even funny. But they got a good run defense. It's not bad. They only allow 89 rushing yards on average. Alabama's at 84.5. Alabama is better in every single defensive category. That's what I think this game comes down to, because the offenses will matter so much on Saturday. It's going to come down to who has the better defense that can come up big at the end. I think Tennessee tries for maybe a Hail Mary or a final drive, something like that. And I think that they come up short. And I think Alabama is tested. And I can't even believe I'm fixing to say this, but give me Pete Golding's brilliant mind to come up with a way to stop the game at the end and slow down Hendon Hooker. I love you guys. Jesus loves you. Want to hear from you guys, your score predictions, your thoughts on this game. Tennessee fans, nothing but love and respect. Shout out to some on YouTube, the Volunteer Roadshow, ACP Carter, Motive, All for Life, BVD. I love all the volunteer fans. I got nothing but love and respect for you guys. I love this rivalry. I hope it's a good, clean, and close game. And if you guys win, I salute you. And may the better team win on Saturday. That's really all I got. I love y'all. Jesus loves you. Keep your head up. Please like, comment, and subscribe right here to Ballard Sports Media for more sports content. And until next time, folks, Ballard Sports Media, check it out. Let's have a great third Saturday. Woo! Roll Tide, baby.
While I was born, Alabama, where I'm from, throw your hands up, put it up, your and I ain't talking about Atlanta, I'm talking about the hell, I'm talking about the field. ALABA, you make this what I live. Alabama, while I was born, Alabama.